Going live on Geving.
And Claire? Nobody?
And that's live too. Minutes till start.
Yeah. Got Smith. Oh. Smith. Oh, great. Jason
I
Smith.
can see myself. I don't like that.
Pan it over a bit. Got the graphic. Perfect. Jason Smith is joining Tyler in the commentary. Alrighty.
So when do you want the?
We will go.
John was making a thing for off bracket, a button for that.
It's right here. I don't know if you. I don't. You can work it out.
Yeah, he said that he
Maybe
realized
it's-
we don't have a button.
Or whether it's an add one. Well, we could add one. Just push play on it.
You do that.
We'll do slowly together.
Not reason that hormones are right off.
You're on mics right now. All right. John, are you there? We should be hearing mics right now. I don't see any levels on NDI Audio Gateway.
Here, does that matter?
They are in the foam again for this one.
I'm not gonna say it's like these guys are experts. I'm just it's like America.
I see them. Where were the other mics? They were put into the feature. You have the. You just went in as a direct feed. Okay.
Jerry, Jason Smith is going to be the co-commentator.
See them up top too. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Heard you chatting over there. We already got her done.
Perfect. That's JASONSMIT.
I thought it was Smitty.
Yeah.
I was going to say you could just put Smitty in there and everybody would know who it was.
Jason Smitty Smith.
Smittens
Smith.
Tyler George.
used to, when they won the trials in '09, would fake sign autographs for him and just write Smittens and dot the I with a heart. There's a lot of those out there.
He wasn't there or what? He did that.
I don't know. I think it was like there's a whole bunch of like pictures sitting around in the curling club. You
I
know,
might have to
to
ask
be
Smitty
signed.
whether he likes that Smitten's name or not.
We were talking about how because they're putting in the box for the screen. We were talking about how we used to sign your name for you on photos that were left. Smittens and dot the I with a heart.
Some grandma's got it on her wall somewhere.
Yeah. Someone I don't call me that one. Yeah, I'd be like, okay.
Well, we could start by putting it on your label.
It's someone would call me that. They'd be like, oh, you did
Well, it is his
broadcasting.
name.
Yeah. Or everyone would be like, I thought it was Smitty. Like now, and everyone's be like, oh, I guess it's Smitty.
Are they C?
Would notice that.
Where would you plug it into?
This just doesn't work. Plug it right in here.
It has a hole for that, does it?
Yeah.
Sure.
5 beers in the fridge, 6 beers in the fridge. Oh, you're ready to go. 5 of them
Like
are.
that was the round one.
Headphones.
Try that. Actually, can you mute the spare audio right now?
Two others that
Hear anything? You should just hear rink noise, not people.
So with the intro, do the
No.
I'll
We're gonna start in about 2 minutes. Okay? We're gonna get out earlier this time.
I'll give the fire from instructions and blah blah blah. And then we're gonna put it.
5 to 10 minutes. Got it. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. You know what? I would be really happy with that.
It's great to be.
Let's tell you about my season.
Yeah.
So and then they'll put the standings up and whatever. Go through that. So once that's done,
Could you slide
yeah,
half a chair this direction, Tyler?
towards you.
Yeah. Just with the
How you
view
smell
here.
today?
I took a shower this morning, so
Is that
that's a
better?
good start.
Perfect.
You're good, Smitty.
But the only cue is if I say your name,
Then you want-
definitely
you want me to
expecting a
talk.
response.
Okay.
But you can talk at any other point too. It's just that those, it's like, okay, we're creating conversation.
Network? Yes, Wi-Fi too.
Just drop it.
Oh. Shouldn't be. Or if it's private versus public network, no.
Yeah, that's one thing we tried.
Didn't
to
John
do,
say so?
is when they're talking about
said these two machines, this one and this one, were on a public network setup instead of private.
Generally, that's only one.
He figured that was something that was causing glitches earlier.
But
They're not
we'll see if
discovered.
Welcome to the Zoo, home of the Kalamazoo Curling Club here in the Wings Event Center, Kalamazoo, Michigan. We are in the playoff round of the 2023 USA Curling Mixed Doubles National Championships. 16 teams have been competing for the right to represent the United States at the 2023 World Mixed Doubles Championships in Gangneung, South Korea. Take a look at the standings from Pool A. Persinger applies 7-0, locked up that top seed. Hamilton by way of their victory over Geving and Shuster have the 2 seed. Both teams at 5-2. On the other side, TC and Dropkin undefeated with the top seed and a bye to the semifinals. Anderson Stopera, the 2 seed, and Anderson Richardson winning a tiebreaker over Strauss and Casper, both at 4-3, to advance to the playoff round as the 3 seed. There is our playoff bracket. Our feature game will be Anderson and Stopera versus Geving and Shuster. The winner plays Persinger Plies tonight at 7 o'clock in this playoff bracket. The bottom side, the Hamilton siblings taking on Taylor Anderson and Ben Richardson. Winner taking on the Coreys, TC and Dropkin again at 7 p.m. tonight. There is Team Anderson Stopera, Sarah Anderson, Andrew Stopera. And their opponents in this game, Aileen Geving and John Shuster. Tyler George on the call here, joined by Jason Smith. Smitty, great to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a privilege to be up here watching these games with you.
A good spot, isn't it? It's a lot warmer up here than it was in Denver when we were doing broadcasts. This is the right time to join.
I feel like I have the best seat in the house.
That you do. We are moments away from the beginning of the game. Smitty, busy season for you. Been talking about how you spent half your time in Nashville this year and bouncing around playing with Jared Allen and that squad and the mixed doubles team as well. So you kind of been all over the map.
Yeah, we played a lot of events this year with our men's team. So myself, Jared, and Hunter, we're all located in Nashville for the season, where we were able to practice every day together and get a bunch of rocks in. Especially being a new team, it really helped us, kind of develop and work our way up.
You have the first stone on the way from Aileen Geving. Sarah Anderson, Andrew Stopera will have hammer here in the first end. Turn draw from Aileen, playing the freeze to that back stone. Just taps a little bit. Smitty, we've talked all week about how freezes in particular have been difficult to lock onto stones because the striking bands are as live as they are. So it makes those hack and board weight shots easier because they're so live you can barely hit some of the stone and move them a long distance. But for the mixed doubles game, with how many freezes you end up playing, really difficult to get close to those stones because of those bands.
Yeah, rocks were flying out of the house. You think you have a rock pretty well locked in, and all of a sudden a hit would come down and it's flying out. So yeah, the ice and rocks and everything were fantastic this week.
Outturn draw from Sarah Anderson right down to the top of the button. Looks like that will freeze as well. And even that one, you saw looked like it almost bounced when it hit that stone. That looked like it was going to be almost dead frozen.
Yeah, you can look like a fool as a sweeper. You're standing, the weight's perfect, and all of a sudden you get a little tap, and it's a foot back from where it was.
Here is John Shuster. John, not quite as busy a season as we've seen from his teams in the past, and that's by design, trying to pick up the number of tournaments in the action as this quad goes on, according to John. And really, that year after the Olympic run, too, and I think, Smitty, for all the teams that were preparing for the trials or attempting to make it there, that's usually the plan, that first season after the quad is more of a get your feet under you if it's a new squad, getting used to playing with new players, but mostly just not burning out at the beginning of a 4-year run.
Yeah, that Olympic year is a grind. You first off with the trials, you work your entire 4 years for these trials, and then of course, make the Olympics and, keep grinding away for that. It's also a good mental break when you have a year that's a little more lax, a little fewer events, and, just kind of, go back to the family for more of the time rather than on the road most of it.
Turn freeze attempt from Andrew Stopera. Looks like this may nestle up right next to that stone. It'll be in the top of the 4-foot. So decent position here for Anderson and Stopera.
those rocks at the top of the four are great position rocks. You know, you can never go wrong with a rock right there. You can always use it later, and it's not easy to come around or not easy for the other team to, get out of the house in general.
Yeah, that position above the 4 foot or above the button in the 4 foot, so important in the mixed doubles games. When those rocks start to pile up in the back of the fours is when you can see teams get into trouble. And a lot of the time now too, and Smitty, I'm kind of learning more about mixed doubles as the week has gone on, as it's not something that I've done a whole lot of broadcasting for or played a lot when I was competing. But so important to set up stones, and we see Shuster with the run back, and that's pretty much perfectly made on those angles, losing 2 reds, and now sitting first and third, leaving the center guard up. It's so important to put rocks in positions where it takes your opponent multiple shots to move that stone or take it out of position. With only 5 stones being thrown for each team, I've done this math, simple math even for myself numerous times this week. 40% of your shots, then, if it takes 2 to move a stone, you're already using 40% of your attempts for an end. So making your opponent waste rocks on trying to unlock stones to create better position or to be able to remove a rock is so important in this game as well.
Yeah, also with the rules too, not being able to hit, until that 5th rock. So there's rocks in the house that you could even see, but you're not allowed to hit them yet. So that forces you to lob another one in compared to the men's and women's game where any rock in the house you see, you can take out of the house.
Sarah Anderson sweeping this hard, trying to get by the guard. Looks like it may just clip the edge. Does open those yellow stones up a little bit more. Shooter sticks for a biter, could be dangerous as well. Looks like it is biting. See, that's Shuster not having been in the house very much lately. Forgot how to sweep for 6 feet. He's doing the whole sheet now.
Ran out of energy for the 600 feet. Can't do the last 6 anymore.
So Geving and Shuster, the decent setup at least for a possible force or steal. 2 stones left for each team. 1 top 8, 1 top 4. First and third, and Anderson Stopera 2nd and 4th. Rare occasion that we see those rocks in the back of the 12-foot end up counting for points in regular ends in mixed doubles. We see with the power plays that more often that stones that aren't in the 4-foot count for points. But with this setup, Smitty, it's not impossible that stone in the back of the 12 could end up countered.
Now, the way it's sitting right now, it's not impossible. But you're right. Most of the time, the rocks that are scoring are in the 4-foot or very, very close to the 4-foot. Despite the way the game is, with a lot of lobbing of draws to the 4-foot, there's generally more rocks in that area.
Nice guard there placed by Shuster on the outturn side. Looks like it'll be a run back attempt for Andrew Stopera. He's made a bunch of these this week, just from the feature games we've had and from every once in a while when you're kind of half paying attention to the other games and all of a sudden there's a rock flying down the sheet, whether it's you throwing it or Andrew or Corey Dropkin, someone else. Those burners, they catch your attention real quick. Say, oh, okay, got to see how many rocks are going to move this time.
Yeah, I think these young guys have a little bit of an edge on me now. I think they're firing a little harder than I am these days. But yeah, it's similar to the 4-person game. Like, these run backs are very, very important. When you can make contact in the house like this one's going to.
That's a pretty good result there from Andrew, opening that stone up and rolling the shooter to open it up.
Shots like that are what create the extra points for that one in the back 12. Also, that yellow rock is exposed where you don't face a perfect one here. That could come into play.
And based on how those rocks were set up, I think that's probably about the best result they could have got on that shot, to open it up and to leave just 1 stone in the house. So the first end, putting the pressure on your opponent to place a rock in a good spot and not give up a shot for a possible 3. I think that was by design for Anderson and Stopera. So now Aileen Geving, I would think, I don't know, Smitty, you like the guard or you like the come around draw here?
I would personally probably call the come around. It's tough to throw a perfect guard when the ice is swinging like this. I know John just threw one, but those rocks will finish, just a little bit at the end and could leave it a little exposed. So I see her coming all the way around with this one.
So rock on the way. Looks like they're playing into the rings. A lot of line right now, needs to turn. Smitty, we've been using that Columbia logo as a gauge for if the weight is correct too. Generally, it starts turning over right before that logo. I'm sure the players saw the same thing, if the weight is correct. Interesting spot.
I did the same as a competitor. I was, timing rocks from logo to logo and trying to stop it early just to kind of get a gauge of where, where the rock would be before the hog line, knowing if I had to sweep or not.
An interesting spot for that stone. Looks like there's not quite enough separation that the shooter could stick around playing that double and miss the back redstone. So question is, can you hit this in a spot where both of those two go and somehow you still get two?
There is some separation, so the drag's not going to be to the maximum amount. I think it's actually pretty close to flipping that red one though.
Scoreboard ready.
Yeah, it's right on the edge of where you might see drag. I'm not sure we'll see anything significant there with that separation, but this final stone coming up for Sarah Anderson. They are playing the double, at least trying to get that top stone to spill far enough that either the shooter or one of the other reds outcounts it. Sarah playing the outturn double.
Sweeping yet. Now they're trying to make it curl.
Ends up just on the nose, so will be a steal of one for Geving and Shuster. Maybe a little fortunate with where that last stone ended up for Aileen on the Anderson Stopera side. So after one end of play, Geving and Shuster with a steal, leading 1-0. Back for the start of the second end here at the 2023 USA Curling Mixed Doubles National Championships. Aileen Geving and John Shuster leading 1-0 over Sarah Anderson and Andrew Stopera. With the start of the second end, is your curling club website clunky and unworkable? Are you tired of your club relying on social media because your website just does not work for your members? Finally, the curling management software your club has been waiting for is here. Check out Warm Room Hero at curling.club today. Looking across at game on sheet D as well, Smitty, a single for Anderson and Richardson for a steal in the first. So both three seeds taking a steal of one in the opening end.
I would expect there to be multiple only 1 point ends in these playoffs. Teams will tend to be a little more cautious knowing that it could be their last game and they don't want to give up that, that 3 or 4 where the game could turn around in a heartbeat.
Yeah, the better played games this week, we've seen far more singles than in the games with a few more mistakes. And really, you think of mixed doubles as a high-scoring game because of the format, but when the top teams play against each other, you really don't see nearly as many points scored, with the execution being higher, for the simple reason that when you're playing all these stones into the forefoot, and you've seen this in men's and women's as well, you have a mess of stones in a small area. It's usually one team scoring one. It's difficult to score more than 1 point when you're bunching all these rocks up and trading, alternating blows really with positioning stones.
Yeah, those first 3 rocks in the end. That first person makes the good freeze, and then there's another freeze, followed by the third freeze. You might as well stop the end. It's most likely going to be just a single point.
We have Rick Edwards from Bradford, Ontario in the chat booth watching, saying greetings from Ontario. We got one, Smitty. We got a Canadian watching during the Brier. That's a win for us.
That is definitely a win. Thank you for tuning in. Call your friends.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a couple screens going. A big curling day today, but we're calling that victory for the United States on that. Thank you, Rick.
Yeah, we'll definitely take it.
If anyone has any questions for Smitty or for myself in the booth, please feel free to chime in the chat. We're happy to answer anything you have to ask, or most likely anything you have to ask.
The last time when I tried that.
Yeah, we may not know the answer, but I'm sure we're sitting around maybe somebody that would.
We can,
or we have Google.
Yeah, we
does it too.
can come up with an answer, whether we Google or make something up, no question. You won't hear "I don't know" too often in this booth unless it has to do with the physics of the game, in which case I readily admit I have no idea what's going on most of the time.
You and me both.
We know our lane. So Andrew Stopera lining things up now.
Yeah, give me.
Shuster and Geving with a rock in the back of the button. There is the man, the myth, the legend, Coach Mark Lazar, standing up today. We've seen him sitting for most of these games. I think maybe playoff time, a little more intense. Mark's got to bounce around a little bit.
Or he's just that cold.
I know he's cold.
It's pretty cold out there.
He did
Can't feel
mention,
his legs.
yeah, he did mention that when he was sitting down and they called timeout, it took him a few extra steps to get loose just so he could walk all the way down to the other end. We'll blame that on the cold and not on Mark's advancing age.
Yeah, no, we're all still young, right? We're
Two of our rocks in the 4-foot.
EW, I'm guessing that's Tony, right? Could be Timmy too. Can I get a shout out for Dustin Tomasetti? He's had one already this week.
Specs,
Yep.
AKA Specs.
The Specs, having a rough day at work today. Wishes he could be in the zoo. That's something we've heard a lot this week. People wishing they were out enjoying the tournament alongside us. But Specs, we know you're watching when you can and telling John everything that he should be doing when he's not.
He'll take all the credit, saying he taught us all everything about curling.
Yeah, I don't think that he'd have an issue with that shot by Shuster. The double is made. Well done again by Shuster. And insider info from Schuster's wife, Sarah, before the tournament, saying that he felt as confident as he had been the entire season going in, the way he's throwing the stone, and really looking for a great result this week. And good chemistry with his teammate as well, Aileen Geving. And here they are in the playoff round.
I'm surprised Sarah didn't want to come broadcast again. Weren't they 2-0 when she was up here broadcasting? Yeah,
She was.
Pretty good record when she was up here.
That she was, yes. Sarah. John is undefeated with Sarah in the broadcast booth.
Oh, Mike Dietz asked us if he's going to see us at the House of Hearts this year. Tyler will definitely be there, as will I. Looking forward to that here in a couple weeks.
We've got a bunch of House of Hearts skips in this field. Nice double there from Stopera, and rolls all the way across under the corner guard. Look at that shot. That's incredible.
I have a feeling that's not the first time we're going to say that today. I imagine we're going to see a ton of great shots from both sheets and later games as well.
And anybody that's curled in any format knows how good a shot that was, making that double and rolling all the way across the house, dead buried underneath that corner guard, trying to set up a possible multiple point end. And Smitty, with the way the rocks were set up before that shot, really looking like just trying to clear things up and take your point and move on to the next end. And now maybe two in play. See what Shuster does with this run back.
Yeah, we also talked about earlier these rocks being so lively. It's hard to find that spot exactly where to hit.
A good plan B there from John. You could tell by the sweep call that he knew that it already overcurled for the run, and they were playing for the roll to the guard, which is dead buried again now. So those little things, paying attention to where the shooter goes, even on the half misses, ends up a very good result for Shuster there.
Yeah, I would imagine he knew that in his head, before he threw, that he could miss that one on the inside a little bit and catch a break and roll over for that guard if he happened to miss the back one.
It's a wide shot here that we can always utilize in key times.
Debating here what they want to do next. If they
want to take that guard out, or if they're going to play something lighter weight around it. With the way this ice curls, it's pretty easy to get around that one that is even biting compared to regular curling club ice. So we'll see what they decide on here.
This is just straight wide shot or do a wide shot.
And one of the things that we've talked about all week too, Smitty, with the curl on this ice is they're getting a ton, getting out into the 12-foot, sometimes the middle of the 12s, even to get to the button. But the break line for shots much closer to back 12, back line, where you're seeing the considerable less amount of curl as opposed to hack to board where we'd normally see it on club ice or even regular tour ice. So that's by design from Sean Olesen to try to reward good shot making on these conditions, where if you just throw a couple feet too much weight, it ends up being a drastically different line on the shot.
Yeah, or same way the other way too. If you happen to throw it a little light,
right.
You may start curling a little earlier than expected, and wreck on a guard that maybe you weren't really that concerned about. But especially on those heavy ones, you're right. If you throw it a couple feet heavy, that rock will hold out there a little bit longer and just not want to come back for you.
And two misses that we've seen consistently throughout the week, and we have talked a lot about this too, and it's been the same way for 10 plus years on our national ice. Our guards over curling because, as you said, it turns over really early. You really have to take the same broom for guards as you do for draws to the button because the difference in curl and the center line path going out being that much faster, not taking the curl early and being deep or wide on shots going middle out. But those have been the misses that we've seen on our nationals ice since Dave Stavitek was the head ice guy. And those things have been the same for, as long as I can remember in national competitions in the United States.
Yeah, with me personally, throwing on this ice and also skipping on arena ice, I always try to broom it as if I'm trying to guard next to the line where it doesn't quite curl enough, because you can get it to come over that one extra rock rotation. And sometimes even earlier in weeks, that rock will, curl over a 3/4 of a rock more for the last 6 inches. Just that strong finish that you'll get with the freshly papered rocks.
Got an absolute mess of stones over on sheet D. Without looking at the colors, Smitty, I'm going to immediately guess that somebody scores 1 point.
That's probably a good assessment with 1, 2, 3, 6 rocks in the 4-foot. Yep, with both colors.
Sarah Anderson drawing for a single point against 2 here in the second. Line looks just fine. They don't have any backing, so needs to hit the brakes a little bit. See if it gets into the slide path and stops. Still gliding a little, but will bite in the back of the force for their single point. Nice shot by Sarah. So after 2 ends of play, Geving, Shuster, Anderson, Stopera tied at a point apiece.
Not over talking, but still.
And 2 commercials.
On to the third end here in our feature matchup, quarterfinals playoff round of the 2023 USA Curling Mixed Doubles National Championships. Tyler George with Olympian Jason Smith. Jason, as we expect, as you said already, singles for both teams in this game, expecting a tight battle, battling for position, and not a crooked number on the board as of yet. But we do see one over on sheet D. It did end up being a 2
We were wrong. We
Matt
thought it would just
Becca.
be a single.
That's a huge scoring end.
That's a
round.
massive end over there too.
So 2-1, the Hamiltons leading over Taylor Anderson and Ben Richardson. Taylor and Ben with a big victory in the tiebreaker this morning. Needed a win in their last game and a loss by one of two teams just to get into the tiebreaker. They did get that break and that win and took full advantage, Smitty. They played fantastic this morning. Ben Richardson in particular was making everything and making life miserable for Strauss and Casper. And sometimes you get that second life and everything turns. So that's a team to watch out for now. But you saw the same with the Hamiltons, with scoring a 6-ender when they were at 1-2 in the standings, and then everything turned from there. They haven't lost a game since. So two teams that are streaking and playing extremely well right now.
That's the right time to get hot. As playoff time starts, you want to be playing your best curling. So it's never a bad time to start.
Rick commenting about meeting in the lounge at the 30 Lounge Holiday Inn during the Players in Toronto. That was an awful storm during that. Oh, I remember we got stuck there for an extra day or two. Miserable weather. Everybody was trying to get out of town. At the end of the curling season, everybody's just trying to get home and be done. But yeah, we had some fun still there, but yeah, that was one of the worst storms I can remember seeing in all the time touring for.
That's usually the way it works, though, right? After a long event or long season, you just finally want to get home, and then nope, you got to stick around a little while longer.
Nice setup here for Anderson and Stopera with two on the button behind cover. Smitty, the only storm I can remember that rivaled that one with regard to disaster conditions was Portage La Prairie, when we had the blackout and lost power in the hotel for 2 days. They canceled the rest of the tournament. That was miserable. We had we were just scrapping for food. There's like 2 restaurants in Portage, period. So even trying to get food during that time was really difficult. So it kind of turned into a Lord of the Flies situation with a whole bunch of the teams hanging out, scrapping together whatever booze they had in their rooms, and getting together under basically the light of phones late at night to try to have a little bit of fun. And the camaraderie was great. It was old school, but man, that was some serious stuff.
I can definitely think of better places I would rather be stuck without power than Portage La Prairie. I mean, it's a great city, but not always the warmest.
That's a fun event because the hotel is attached to the curling club. So you change in your room, you go right out to the ice, which is really convenient, obviously. But when everything you need is under one roof and then none of it is available because the power is gone, you get some emergency conditions there.
Also, remember after the 4-day event, you finally go outside and that sun is like, wow, what?
Yeah.
I feel like you've been stuck in a cave for the week.
Andrew Stopera playing the intern freeze on this top Yellowstone, or even just trying to stagger underneath the guard. Nice shot again by Shuster to bump those to a pocket. Andrew playing the guard, and I think John believes he can double these out. Looks like maybe a third of a stone. They both go.
Maybe even a little thinner. A third of a stone might just miss that red one. It might even have to be a quarter.
Yeah, not one that you can hit too thin unless you don't hit enough to take them out. But these shots, as you said, Smitty, always thinner than you think they are.
Yeah, these shots are, they're pretty precise, especially if you're trying to just hit a piece.
This one on the way from Shuster, trying to catch this thin enough to take both out. Over curls and jams on his own yellow. So now first and third for Anderson and Stopera, back of the button, and top 12 foot.
Now this is where rocks like that one Andrew threw in the top 12 come back into play, almost acting as a second guard, making it difficult for John to have a straight run back. Now he'd have to run them both in there and leave that red one top 4 or top 8.
Smitty, I know some of the players were out having some fun last night after the close of the tournament for them. Maybe a little bit of a slow morning for them, so wouldn't have been a bad idea to wake up to freshness with Tim's 2 for $6 breakfast sandwiches featuring fresh cracked eggs. Pair with the new vanilla-flavored cream cold brew with chocolate cold foam or a vanilla-flavored latte with chocolate syrup. Thank you to our local sponsor, Tim Hortons, located at 5709 Westnedge Avenue near I-94 in Portage. Thank you again, Tim's, for being a part of the event. And Smitty, every time I read that ad, I think about how strange it is to be reading Tim Hortons ads in the United States. But something that's very common for us when we go north of the border.
Well, first of all, what a great lead into the Tim Hortons ad.
That's the pro right there.
That's professional right
That's
there.
how they do it.
I mentioned it during when we were playing over on these sheets. I was like, I feel honored to be sliding over a Tim Hortons logo, right? All the years we spent watching the Tim Hortons Briar.
That's as close as we get to playing in the Briar, yeah.
That's as close as we can get is just sliding over the banner.
See some of those players that were out and about last night. The peanut gallery over there on the boards on the opposite side.
Doesn't look like they stopped from last night either. They're still laughing, having a good time.
Beck's texting in his love for Tim Hortons in a very graphic nature.
Must have been a typo, I would think. He's such a nice boy.
Yeah, he either really likes it or that last word was supposed to start with an S and he really hates it.
Yeah.
You guys can do the math on that one. So outturn.
Maybe we'll go get him a T-shirt.
Attempt.
We'll go get him a local T-shirt. He'll appreciate that.
That angle, not a good one here for Geving and Shuster. That's about the worst place they could leave that stone, Smitty. Those are both going out very easy for Anderson and Stopera to sit a possible 4 and make scoring pretty difficult.
Yeah, that's one where it's really hit it anywhere almost, and that thing's flying out of there. Of course, you'd like to hit it and stick around. Right. But it's pretty easy to remove both those yellow ones at this point.
I'm sure the discussion is about what kind of weight they want to play at this, where they want to leave the shooter. I think dead on the nose is pretty much perfect, and you're going to leave the intern draw no matter what, but I don't think you have much choice. The only question, though, is if you don't move those stones right now, are you locking up the steel because of where the angles are at? So even though you want to sit 4, is it better to not move them and have a chance, or a better chance maybe, of not allowing your opponent to have a shot?
Yeah, you can look at it a couple different ways. Do you want to lock up that angle and get a for sure 1, or do you want to maybe roll under and make them look at 4 rather than just a 1? So it's kind of decision time here for Shuster and Geving at this point.
Like Sarah's just playing a guard, crossing the center line and trying to take away that intern draw. So they did decide that they'd rather have a higher percentage chance at stealing 1 as opposed to taking both of those yellows out and trying to make them look at 4. Well, that did kind of undercurl, but I think it takes the tap away still.
Another good example why I'm sitting up here, not currently on the ice, probably.
Or why I wasn't very good at mixed doubles.
Yes. So we're learning as well up here. Got my notebook and pen handy.
I think I would be a more knowledgeable mixed doubles player after doing this broadcasting. A lot of times when you watch a tournament, you think I don't know up from down anymore. But I feel like I have a better grasp for the game now than I did at the beginning of the week from watching you pros. And really learning on the fly for a has been that the game has passed by and is just trying to keep up.
And your skill level of calling that draw to the 4-foot as well has got to be picked up.
I got that one down. Aileen tried to walk that one down to the side of the button. Really difficult angle to make that on. So the decision pays off for Anderson and Stopera, playing the guard and securing that steal of 1, the all-important singles we were talking about. After 3 ends of play, Anderson Stopera leading Geving and Shuster 2-1.
Twin Cities Orthopedics is ready to go with more doctors, specialty services, and convenient urgent care locations. Ready, set, TCO.
Fourth end of this quarterfinal matchup, the 2023 USA Curling Mixed Doubles National Championships. Sarah Anderson, Andrew Stopera leading Aileen Geving and John Shuster 2-1 after 3 ends of play. 3 singles so far, Smitty. Tyler George here with Jason Smith. And you figure at some point there's probably going to be a breakout score of some sort, but singles all we've needed so far.
Yeah, well, of course, now we're starting to get closer to the ends where teams will start using their power play, so that can change games around pretty quick and force teams to get a little more aggressive, which could lead to some bigger ends.
Force of 1 over on sheet D for Anderson and Richardson, so 2-2 in that matchup. Kind of keeping an eye on that one as well, and again, all these teams playing extremely well right now. And we haven't even gotten to the 2 teams that are undefeated in this tournament. So every game from here on out, we expect high caliber of play.
Yeah, excited to see the rest of the games. My flight's scheduled for tomorrow night, and I didn't even change it because I wanted to stick around and watch these teams play.
There you go. And a little bit of the old school curling mentality, too, of getting to spend some more time with the other competitors and a little more of a social atmosphere after the event is done. Sometimes you just want to get home and get in your own bed. Obviously understandable, but with the season getting close to a close, it's kind of a little bit of a release for the players too, to spend some time with their competitors and friends, to take those cutthroat attitudes from the tournament and on the ice and shelve those things in favor of clinking a few together.
Also great to support local businesses. Especially later in the evenings. It's always, local businesses and hearing local bands. So that was a fun evening last night.
Tim Hortons in the morning and local bars in the evening.
Exactly.
I believe the occupancy of that establishment that all the curlers went to last night tripled when the curlers came in.
I think they did. At least tripled.
Wonderful group of people out here, all the competitors. A very tight-knit group. Always the case in the curling world. Another pile of stones starting out this fourth end. And Smitty, we haven't seen too many of those common misses where rocks have gone deep with a little bit of an overthrow, allowing an opponent to have an advantage. It's been back and forth with rocks either to the tee line or above, basically every end so far.
And that's another testament to the ice as well. The ice hasn't changed at all. So by this point in the competition, people are, have that feel for draw weight and what the kick is and everything. Sometimes when you play in arena ice or curling club ice, you can get different speeds game to game or day to day. We didn't see that out here.
Yeah, the ice has been so consistent all week long, and we know as players it's very rare that it's unanimous throughout the competition that they're happy with the conditions and it stays consistent all the way through, because it's fine to have little idiosyncrasies as long as it's a consistent thing. And that's been the hallmark of the ice this week, and credit to Sean Olafson and his crew that I haven't heard anything from the players about, well, this draw, things got a little more difficult, or it was frosty in the morning draw. Be able to regulate the conditions here as well as they have and create consistent conditions. That's really all you can ask for as a player.
Oh, yeah. Just day in and day out, get the same ice conditions. That's what makes it fun to play on, when you're not really worried about the broom, and it's all about, your weight control and, making shots to perfection.
Speaking of perfection, really nice out-turn draw from Stopera there. These teams trading blows into the forefoot. Appears as though Anderson and Stopera are sitting 2. I think you'll see Shuster take on this intern slash on the right side on the overhead. Yellowstone into the 2 reds, and maybe get all 3 of those reds moving.
I think 2 of them will stick around, but at least he'll get them off the button there and give himself a chance to score.
Line looks pretty good here for John. Actually got a little unlucky with where that yellow stone went on the slash and bumped twice on that red stone up out of the rings, but does move 2 of them out of the forefoot, 1 biting 4s, and a much better chance of being able to score after that shot.
Yeah, that was the purpose of that shot, was to open up that button, give Aileen a chance to draw one in there on her next one if she's given the opportunity.
More rocks to go in this first half of the quarterfinal game. Andrew Stopera lining up for another attempt. And Smitty, are you looking to push this rock all the way back to back 8s, back 12s, or even clear it?
I don't think you need to fully get rid of it. I think if you can tap and roll under and use it as almost a catcher in the forefoot, that's not a bad thing. But of course, line is definitely the most important on this one. This one hanging out there, in fact.
Yeah, not where they wanted to hit that one, and appears as though they may be sitting one. I don't know that that's going to last very long. Geving and Shuster with number 2 in the back of the forefoot.
Yeah, I would assume John and Aileen will be playing the hit and roll across onto those 2 other red ones on the other side of the forefoot. Hopefully looking to put up that crooked number that we talked about earlier.
Maybe an opportunity here for Shuster if they can bump that redstone and roll all the way to the button. You put the pressure on your opponent at least.
Just to see how much weight he throws at this one. He just saw Andrew throw it, so is he going to throw something similar to that, or is he going to throw a little bit less?
Yeah, John playing maybe a little bit more weight than you expect, but this is by design, Smitty. He wants to get a flatter roll and not go to the back of the button. And he could use the stopper over there as well. So that's a good shot by John, sitting 2 and spreading those 2 out, and plays possibly into a jam, playing the double unless it squirts between those 2. So John looking at all the angles as he does, playing all the way across when a lot of players might have just played to hit and roll right to the button. John seeing that the angles played into a better opportunity for 2, rolling all the way across to the opposite side of the forefoot.
He's played a long time now. I'm sure he's been in a similar situation before and learned his lesson back in the day a few times and learned from it.
His curling life isn't getting any easier as time goes, too. Now with his kids starting to play in Bonspiels, and John was up in Bemidji watching them compete a couple weekends ago, and very proud of his kids.
Yeah, he spent the week in Denver first, won that men's national championship, and the following weekend he's watching his kids play in Bemidji. So a traveling curling man.
Andrew Stopera trying to get this to turn over and roll in for shot, but will roll to the outside. So that roll by Shuster works exactly how they intended it to. Will be a draw to the forefoot for Aileen Geving for their second point and possibly the first deuce of this game.
Another draw to the forefoot.
No matter what shots are thrown leading up to it, we come right back home. Another draw to the 4s.
I bet she knows the line for this one.
I would hope she would by this point now. And Aileen's had great weight so far in this game. Playing the outturn side. Do have their own for backing. I doubt they're playing the line to play to that stone. And that's a dangerous shot to play on this ice, to throw for backing with room for clean draw, as you know how much it'll coast when you throw a couple feet extra weight.
Yeah, and also not really knowing the broom either. You get a little further out on the ice on a little fresher path. It could actually end up curling more.
Yeah, this is
so
a lot of weight here.
The same.
I think Shuster was thinking maybe he had to sweep for a few seconds, but ends up hitting the brakes in that slide path in the back of the 4s. That's well done by Aileen. Very well played game so far. After 4 ends of play, score 3-2, and with the 4th end break, it's brought to you by Warm Room Hero, the intuitive curling club software that takes the stress out of schedules, registrations, and more. Warm Room Hero, a platform built for curlers by curlers. Check out Warm Room Hero at curling.club today. 3-2, Geving and Shuster leading Anderson and Stopera at the 4th end break.
Let's say you're in high school and there's a sport you like, but sometimes you think, you know, it might be cool to try a new sport.
Twin Cities Orthopedics is ready to go with more doctors, specialty services, and convenient urgent care locations. Ready, set, TCO.
Fourth end break here in the 2023 USA Curling Mixed Doubles National Championships. Tyler George and Jason Smith. There's a live shot of us in the booth. Looking dapper and handsome as ever. Looking at the score over on sheet D, we see Anderson and Richardson with a steal of one in the fourth. Now to take the lead 3-2 over the Hamilton siblings. Tight battle over there. So 8 ends have been played in these 2 games, and only 2 deuces have been scored, 1 in each game. Our feature matchup here, 3-2. So scores mirroring each other. The yellow leading 3-2 on both sheets, and red with hammer in the 5th end. Doesn't appear as though anybody is elected to use their power play in this end yet either, Smitty, but exactly what we've expected so far. Tight battles, good positioning, good execution.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see when, we've kind of a similar score on both sheets. It'll be interesting to see when people choose to use their power play. Will people hold on to the later ends? Or are they going to use it starting, in that 6th end? So we'll see here in the next few minutes.
We've seen very few power plays used before the 6th in these games, but this morning's tiebreaker, Delaney Strauss and Danny Casper elected to use theirs in the 4th as they were down by 5 already, trying to right the ship, turn the momentum the other direction. Didn't work real well for them.
Yeah, sometimes when teams are kind of beating you to that center and you're having a tough time going, it's good to change up that game plan. Play to the wing a little bit more and maybe get them out of that rhythm that you talked about. You're at that point, you're really kind of hoping for anything that'll help you.
Got an offer from Mr. Tony Wright. Play with him, Wes Lexell, and Will Howison in the last chance. I just told Smitty I haven't played in a non-charity event tournament since 2019. So that would really be A big adjustment for me coming back into the game, and to play with 3 guys that I coached in juniors in 2014. That'd be a little jarring, as if I need to feel any older than that. These guys are all probably close to 30 now.
Maybe that's why they want you to play. They miss your wisdom, and they want to receive more of it.
They just can't get that voice out of their head, and they still ask me back. I did an event with Will Howison's law firm a few weeks ago in St. Paul. They did a Learn to Curl event and a little mini tournament. It was a lot of fun to see Will. Seen him as a grown-up, an adult. Again, just it's fun to see where those lives go too. You know, following junior curling in their early 20s, and all these guys, you know, living adult lives, different people.
Yeah, a lot of these teams, you know, there's 3 phases. You have the junior curling, then you have kind of the transitional phase into like the men's before you actually become like an Olympic team. It's great seeing these teams' journey, knowing that we both went through it, you know, from being very young to curling to, you know, then getting into the men's game, and then making the ultimate dream come true and making the Olympics, and for you winning a gold.
We have a little bit of volume on player mics now here in the booth. You can use that information. Smitty, you've done your share of broadcasting as well, and not sure how much mixed doubles you've done, but when I did doubles in the Olympics, it was the first real broadcasts I'd done outside of some web streams. And starting out when you're doing a format that you're relatively familiar with, but not all the teams are speaking English, and you don't have a broom to use as a gauge for what shot they're playing. I had quite a few instances where I would say, I believe they're playing the intern draw here, and then they come flying out of the hack on the opposite side with an out-turn hit. So the player mics do help a lot.
And also having a skip here, there's also not a skip at the other end.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
you can
the biggest
barely see the broom and have an idea what they're playing anyway.
No
Without
idea
that,
what they're throwing yet.
It's almost a blind guess sometimes.
Really good setup here for Anderson and Stopera. May see Shuster try to play the run back and at least open things up, I believe.
After scoring the deuce in the last 10, their objective here is probably to, obviously steal one or hold them to one.
To get up just a little bit. Does remove the stone in the top of the 8 foot, which does help.
Very close. Very, very close.
And virtually no margin for error on a shot like that. It's a spot maybe a half an inch wide that you can hit it and get the result you're looking for. Nancy Mall saying, speaking of junior curling, she'd like us to come to Denver for a junior camp in late June. I would plan on doing that. Dave Jensen and I helped run a camp out there last summer. Everything was great. We loved our time out there. Denver Club does a fantastic job helping us put stuff together. So, Nancy, if you want to have us back, we can definitely talk, and I think I could probably schmooze Smitty into getting involved as well.
I do have I got the business card for the junior curling camp while I was in Denver a couple weeks ago.
There we go.
Haven't had time to think about it, preparing for this and playing in that men's nationals. So it's something I would definitely be interested in as well.
We had some help from Claire Moores and Lance Wheeler during that camp too, and did a fantastic job with the juniors. They're really good with younger players, so bringing in a few more people possibly to help out. We're all for it. Smitty would be a fantastic addition to that crew as well.
Well, we both know that we wouldn't have got to where we're at without those camps and without the people
Absolutely
that
not. And
without
without
at those
people
camps.
like
So
Dave Jensen.
It's important to give back, and I could not spend enough time giving back for all the people that helped me personally along the way. So you'll never hear a no out of me for any junior camp or helping out any junior, anybody in general.
It's just the kind of guy he is, ladies and gentlemen. Saw an actual mistake from Ben Richardson over there. Haven't seen too many of those today.
Guess John is going to attempt that same run back again to shake those stones up a little bit in the house here.
Yeah, if this is made correctly, you can move a lot of red stones. At the very least, the top 3, possibly a little bonus on the back one too. If you just paper the second and third rocks, difficult to describe exactly how that would go. But, with 2 cracks at this now, Smitty, I expect John to make contact with that rock in the top 8s at the very least and maybe get all these moving. See if there's any announcer jinxes on the way.
Not sweeping yet. Looks close, though.
I might have got him. Yeah, that's announcer jinx for sure. I apologize to the Geving and Shuster fans. That one's on me. But with the way John's throwing it, you just kind of expect that those are going to be made at this point, too.
Yeah, he's had a pretty good month of throwing the rock. So, of course, you expect him to make those ones, especially when you get 2 cracks at it. One of the first rules I learned in curling was never give a skip the same shot 2 times in a row.
So important shot now for Anderson and Stopera. Starting to fill in the crowds, too. Bunch of people braving the elements out there. We know it's a little chilly on the ice surface, but the more people out there, the warmer it is. So they're all helping each other out. We're just fine in our nice heated area up here behind the glass. Living the life.
It's a balmy 72 here in the upstairs behind the glass. You and Sarah here have to be thinking about how they maybe get a 3rd point out of this somehow. I would guess this would be kind of a setup shot for the next one.
Yeah, it looks like they're actually going to try to move these around. Move that back yellow stone. So a bit of a risky play with the rocks set up the way they are already. Does get that yellow stone all the way out to the back of the 12s and sits 4. So now the question is, Smitty, how many can Aileen get moving with this final shot?
I think she's looking to just hit the top 2 and sit on top of that red one. That was the risk of playing something like that. Now, if she makes a good one here, you might be forced to 1.
A little surprised at that call. Move that stone as opposed to either lob another one in that area or throw a guard and make them try to take out 1 or 2 and still have your draw for possibly 3.
I think I was more surprised at the weight call.
Sure.
You could have thrown something a little lighter in there and just kind of move that yellow one back a little bit. Maybe use it as a catcher for one of your red rocks that's in the 4-foot.
Did see a signal from Shuster about possibly playing in-off triple to move both of those stones off the button.
Yeah, I don't think you can hit this one too thin.
See what happens. This one on the way. Plenty of weight from Aileen. That's a pretty good result from where that rock ended up.
That's a great shot.
Moves that one all the way out the side, so that back 12 rock, too, also just in case they were going to try to move the other yellow out. That's negated now by the stone in the 12. So great shot by Aileen, now forcing a draw for 2 to the side of the button. So Smitty maybe a little too greedy with that shot, trying to move those around and now forcing themselves into a difficult shot for a 2nd point.
Yeah, they almost had a guaranteed 2 and then chose to play that hit to open up the possibility for more points, and it backfired a little bit on them. She does still have this draw, to the button for 2, but it's very difficult.
Final stone of the 5th end. Sarah Anderson trying to draw the button for a 2nd point. Not a lot of margin for error here. Need to get about half of the 4-foot, or half of the button, excuse me, for this 2nd point. Stopera still sliding behind it. Didn't really take a turn until right after that Columbia logo, which is usually a pretty good sign that the weight is up, and plenty of weight there from Sarah does end up gliding too deep. So I would call that a victory for Geving and Shuster with how that was shaping up, forcing to a single point. After 5 ends, score tied 3-3.
The everyday person may not aspire to be a professional athlete or an Olympic athlete. You may just want to be the best person you can be. You just may want to sleep better. You may want to feel better. Thorne has many products that can support all of those things. So it's not just about performing or running faster or jumping higher. It's those little things that go into having a higher quality of life.
With the start of the sixth end in this feature matchup, USA Curling 2023 National Mixed Doubles Championships, thanks to our friends at Floor Curl, USA Curling member clubs are entitled to a 20% discount on any Floor Curl inflatable rink set. These rinks only take a minute to inflate or deflate and are the perfect way to promote your club at summer festivals, events, or anywhere you have a flat surface, no ice required. Visit usacurling.floorcurl.com. Use the promo code FCInflatable20. That's usacurling.floorcurl.com. Promo code FCInflatable20. Valid until March 12th. Tyler George with 2010 Olympian Jason Smith. Smitty, I don't think that's the result they're looking for here to start off this power play.
No, they were just trying to tap that one into, into the 4-foot or 8-foot. Might have overcurled a little bit on them and just hit it a hair too thick.
The door open now for Geving and Shuster to try to set up a multiple point end, and looks as though they're throwing the draw to the open side, and this has been a point of contention throughout the competition on how these power plays are used. Smitty, if you throw under the corner guard to try to take away that freeze opportunity or throw to the open side, if you do throw to the open side, you have to make sure that the stone is at least full 8 foot so the freeze doesn't outcount both stones.
I'm a fan of this. With the way people can make run backs, if you don't throw a perfect one in there, all of a sudden, one run back and both those rocks are gone. Good thing about this, we always have rules like we want to be shot rock with this one. So I'm making a shot rock, even if they were to make some run or freeze on the other side, you're still number one, and then you can kind of work your way in for a second point still.
Now, every time we say the word freeze, and every time I look outside at all the snow that just landed, I get upset because I received a picture and a text from Marcus Gleaton down in Hawaii on the beach watching the game with a pretty good setup, just taunting us with these visuals. I believe we have that available. Show the viewers Marcus's view of this setup, and there it is. Watching the game on his phone, that's about as good as it gets for Marcus, and with everything that Marcus has done for...
I bet I could have the headset on, sitting there watching the game, broadcasting as well.
Yeah, that's a great setup. And Marcus's company, Mimic Insurance, the Gleaton Agency, has been serving the educational community in Southwest Michigan since 2006. Call them for all your home and automobile insurance needs. Marcus did give me a number to use for that. Still thinking about giving out his personal number just so he gets harassed on the beach. But the company number, 269-467-8974. That's 269-467-8974. So that information also comes up by scanning. But for those of us that don't feel like doing a scan and just want that number, now you have it. Thanks to Marcus for everything he's done for these championship events in Kalamazoo, and I hope it rains on you on the beach.
Kind of a big miss there from John. He was playing the little tap on that one and might have overthrown it a little bit and ended up skating right by it. So now Andy with the opportunity to hit that shot rock to sit 1-2.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of an error there. That's that track we talked about too, Smitty. Inside out on the wide and heavy side going by.
That spot was probably 3 or 4 feet quicker all week long. Thankfully, we picked up on that pretty early. Not saying we didn't miss any wide and heavy on that side, but at least we knew, weren't fooled by it.
Pretty good setup right now still for Anderson and Stopera to try to score a multiple point end with a steal at the very least. Nothing really to guard the steal, but second. Wasn't really sure which team was playing with hammer with the way that these rocks are coasting through. I had to look at the scoreboard again and say, okay, yeah, it is yellow indeed. This one now coasting again.
It looked like he got on the other side of that center line.
Needs to make contact to stick around maybe, and just bounces off a little bit. A good force situation now for red rocks for Anderson Stopera. And really now, Smitty, it's just a matter of eliminating stones and making sure you don't leave any type of freeze opportunity to set up a multiple point end for Geving and Shuster. If they can either get a force or a cheap steal, they'd be in the driver's seat going forward with their power play yet to come.
Yeah, it'd definitely be a win for them. You kind of always assume when a team uses their power play that they're going to get 2. So it's kind of a limit them to 2 situation, but they're doing better than that even here. And looks like it's going to be a force.
Out-turn pass ends up hitting and rolling all the way across and out of the house. So seeing a few errors here in this end, more than we've seen in any other. And sometimes that's a byproduct of playing lines that you really haven't played the entire game with these power plays, not just lobbing stones to the center of the house.
Yeah, one thing that's a major difference between the 4-person game and this mixed doubles game is you tend to get in a rhythm with that same line. You're throwing to that outside 12-foot all day long to the middle. And then when you have to change it up and go inside out or slide down the center line, it's probably been a few shots since you've had to do that.
So Shuster looking to, can't even tell what turn he's throwing with that handle straight out. Playing the out turn now. I believe trying to either half bury behind that red stone or corner freeze on it.
Just let it curl and die.
Don saying let it curl and die.
This is the difference between back 12 and T-line, I guess. Sorry.
There's exactly what we've been talking about, Smitty. John says there's the difference between back 12 and T-line.
Yeah, overthrew it, and the rock just never came back for him.
Made the reference a few times, not the same amount of curl, but where the break point is with the curl is very similar to ice that we see in Blaine, where you throw that back 12 weight and all of a sudden the curl's gone. And it coasts so much more than T weight, so it really rewards having pure draw weight or sweeping weight too. So again, the curl a little bit different with how much you're getting, but that break point being so close to each other with T weight and back 12 weight running completely differently on line.
Yeah, you got to be pretty accurate with that. If you tend to overthrow them like a regular curling clubs, you can catch a break where a rock will curl up enough to at least make contact with another one. Here, that's not that case. They ride out there, and then they start slowing down and turning over. That's when they do it. And if it's a little deeper than what you wanted, it waits and slides on by.
Sarah Anderson throwing the in-turn draw, looking to just go to the top of the 8-foot for a third counter. There will be no shot for 2 for Geving and Shuster. That's well placed there by Sarah. They just kind of walked it down nonchalantly, but I think that's pretty close to where you want it. And it maybe over curls just a little bit, but now forcing Aileen Geving to draw against 3 points. Needs to basically touch the 4-foot. Smitty, she's had a few of these already. Hasn't made any mistakes as of yet. One draw for an extra point to a very small spot, but This one just needs to touch fours for the single.
Yeah, this one's a little more pressure packed than that first draw at the end. That's the open draw to the forefoot.
Shuster seemed to think it needed a little bit early and getting on this pretty good. Now just off and on, usually a pretty good sign, but now jumping in. Line's just fine, all on the weight. I think they should be able to get this there. And they do. Good sweep there by Shuster, and Geving jumping in right to the lid. Always good to see that rock end up on the button at this point in the game, too, knowing you have that weight in your pocket. So Geving and Shuster do get the single to take the lead. 4-3 on their power play after 6 ends of play.
Just because you're not a professional athlete doesn't mean that you should accept less. The beauty about what Thorn does is our product quality is the same whether they're in the athletic line or whether they're just for the everyday person. Thorn has kept true to never compromising on quality, never compromising on efficacy, never compromising on safety for not only athletes but for everyone who would use their products.
Beginning of the 7th end in this quarterfinal matchup, the 2023 USA Curling Mixed Doubles National Championships. Geving and Shuster leading Anderson and Stopera 4-3. Power play now in place for Sarah Anderson, Andrew Stopera. Jason Smith here with Tyler George. Smitty, I know you're a tech guy. I know you're a computer guy. Have you heard about Warm Room Hero?
I have. Warm Room Hero is more than just a software. It's run by curlers dedicated to building long-term relationships with your club. Warm Room Hero provides continuous support to ensure your website exceeds your members' expectations. Check out Warm Room Hero today at curling.club for special event pricing.
That is fascinating. Very professionally done. Thank you, Smitty. Thank you to Anthony DeArco and Warm Room Hero out of Windy City Curling Club in Chicago for their support of this national championship event and their support of the men's and women's in Denver a few weeks back. Great shot by Aileen Geving to start this end off on their opponent's power play, chipping that yellow stone, that guard into the rings and rolling to open up the red counter on the tee line. Very important shot at the beginning of this end.
Yeah, that's kind of a momentum stealer. You know, you set up your power play and you see him make a good one like that, and knowing you can't hit it, now it kind of changes your game plan for the end.
So a steal over on sheet D in the 5th by Anderson and Richardson, a second straight steal to now take a 4-2 lead on the Hamilton siblings. That team really playing well right now, and both teams obviously a threat to win this championship, but the team that gets second life now making the most of it, looking to get a second win today to advance to the semifinals. Still some rocks to throw there in the 6th. See what happens if the Hamiltons can put a few points together. Try to get back in it once again.
We have seen it before, though. Teams that get that extra game in the tiebreaker might have taken a little bit of time in the round robin to get going, and finally found their stride later in the event, and it continues into the tiebreaker and now into the quarterfinal.
Shuster playing the in-turn draw. His line is perfect. Taking a little bit of a turnover, trying to come around their own stone in the top of the 8-foot. All the way back to that stone in the back of the 12s.
I have to say congratulations to my men's curling teammate, Dominic Mierke. Him and his wife today had their first child,
Hey.
Mara Lane. Actually, excuse me, she was born yesterday, weighing 7 pounds, 10 ounces. So congratulations, Dominic. Best of luck to you and your wife.
That's fantastic. And Dom, again, one of the good ones in the curling world. And congratulations on the new addition to the family. Happy and healthy, it looks like. Always good to see friends have those, it seems like so many of them as of late. We had a get-together kind of celebrating a bunch of our 40th birthdays in the Duluth Curling Club a while back. And there was about 50 or 60 kids running around, it seemed like, from all the curlers and their children. So a lot of next wave of possible national and Olympic hopefuls. They're already plotting out who's going to be on whose team, and about 30 different coaches available for those squads with all these children. So congrats to Dom.
Also makes you feel older, year by year when those kids get bigger and bigger. You remember when you were that age and running around. Now our friends are having children, and we're seeing that firsthand.
Yeah, my 11-month-old nephew, Xander, was crawling around on the circle where our dance floor is in the Duluth Curling Club last weekend at a bonspiel that was going on, and my parents couldn't help but remember myself and my sister running laps around those circles when we were younger. So if anything's going to make you feel old, that will do it. But it's a lot of fun to see that turnover and the next generation of kids coming up in the curling world. Rock in the back of the forefoot now. Shot rock for Anderson and Stopera. Close for second count. I believe yellow may be second, red third. But that red one's leaving shortly here. Shuster with the crosshouse double, makes no mistake there.
Great double there by John.
That's a big one. Now sitting 3. Every time it seems like one team might have a little bit of an advantage, and something like that gets made, and Shuster with a huge shot here in the 7th. Again, over on D, a third straight steal of 1 point for Taylor Anderson and Ben Richardson. They lead Matt and Becca Hamilton 5-2. And Smitty, that steal was on the power play for Hamilton and Hamilton, so they don't have that in the bag anymore. 2 ends to play, down by 3. I don't know if you call it an upset, maybe a small one based on the history that the Hamiltons have in this format. But can't mention it enough, that second life, Taylor and Ben really rounding into form.
Yeah, game's definitely not over, but it's definitely an uphill climb for Matt and Becca from here on out, especially not scoring on their power play there. Andrew playing possibly a little tap and roll under, possibly. Yeah.
A really good shot there from Andrew. Still trying to set up a possible multiple point end if they can. And Shuster and Geving would be just fine with a single point for Anderson and Stopera in this situation. And Smitty, for men's and women's teams, there's always a question now with the no-tick zone rule, whether you'd rather be tied up without hammer or down 2 with. So between 5-rock rule and no-tick, it's gotten easier to either score 3 with or steal. So in mixed doubles, same situation. Would you rather be down by 2 with hammer or tied up without?
I think me personally, I think it depends on who I'm playing against. If you have players on the other team that are strong run back players where their shot is that straight run to pick things out of the house, it's pretty difficult to steal one. But if it's not their strength per se, obviously everybody can make every shot, but if it's not their strength, maybe it's the other way. It's hard to say. Yesterday we had played plies. We're in a situation where we had to steal. And they were actually using their power play. And normally I would have came around a center guard, but instead I threw a couple second center guards on top of him, just knowing who I was playing against and his skill level for making those runs.
I would tend to think that it's a little easier to steal in this format than, as we see with scoreboards out here with the number of steals we've had. I think I would prefer in that situation to have to steal one as opposed to score 3, especially with the number of singles that we're seeing in these tight games. It's been very difficult scoring more than 1 point for these teams, but steals of 1 have not been that tough to come across. So that would be the thought, having seen, I believe, 4, 5, 6 steals between the 2 games, I think.
Yeah, you're right on that. It is, stealing is not out of the question, especially compared to the 4-person game.
Nice rock position again to the top of the button. Just hoping for 1 half miss to have a chance to score 2 points. Aileen Geving can either pick this one out or play the short run on her own yellow. Smitty, this is kind of a 6 1/2 dozen shot. It's whichever you prefer as the person throwing it. I would guess that you probably prefer just picking that out, shooting it out the side.
I think, to me, actually, the run, because you can hit that run a little bit on the outside or even on the nose and make it.
Ooh, early sweep backs this one out a little bit. Is it going to come up enough now? Oh, just an early sweep call. And you know from experience, Smitty, that's the time you have the most impact on that type of shot. And now Sarah and Andrew looking at these back 2 stones, a possible double on these back 2 to sit 3 or score 3.
Yeah,
risk reward, you think it's worth it here? I think it is.
Oh, I think it is as well. I think you throw something lighter in there, and if you happen to hit a little too-thick and hit and roll on top for 2, great. Or if you make it, obviously even better. But yeah, a minute ago we were talking about the force for John and Aileen, and 1 miss, 1 made shot later, and 1 half miss. All of a sudden we're looking at a 3 spot for the team with Anderson Stopera with the power play.
Now, the first time that mixed doubles has reared its ugly head in everything turning on its head in 1 shot, and went from a definite force to a possible double for 3 for Sarah Anderson. Don't have to fire this one really either, Smitty. You only have to move those rocks a little ways. Looks like they're playing just draw instead. They were lining up for that hit on the back, and now this is a draw maybe with backing at this point. It's not enough weight to move both of those stones.
Yeah, it looks like she's playing just her draw down for 2.
Just barely nestles in there, and it is 2 to take the lead, so discretion the better part of valor. Getting the lead going to the final ends. Now Anderson Stopera leading Geving and Shuster 5-4, 1 end to play.
The everyday person may not aspire to be a professional athlete or an Olympic athlete. You may just want to be the best person you can be. You just may want to sleep better. You may want to feel better. Thorne has many products that can support all of those things. So it's not just about performing or running faster or jumping higher. It's those little things that go into having a higher quality of life.
Eighth end of this 2023 USA Curling Mixed Doubles National Championship quarterfinal. Sarah Anderson, Andrew Stopera after a 2-point score in the 7th, now leading Aileen Geving and John Shuster 5-4. Tyler George here with 2010 Olympian Jason Smith. And Smitty, we were talking about what we might have preferred playing on that last shot. And kind of agreed, and Jerry Gertzer as well in the booth, that the double probably worth taking on for risk reward and your chances of winning the game.
Yeah, I think it obviously had some risk, but I think there were a couple ways you could have hit it to either make it for the 3 or get your deuce anyway. But also looking at that, you also are still favored to win if you're up 1 without in the mixed doubles game. So that may have played a factor in their decision as well.
This one looks like it's going right by for Geving, so rough start to this end. Things really taking a turn here over the last few shots.
Yeah, I'm gonna see Andrew try to lock another one in there, and then it's going to be tough going for John and Aileen to get those 2 moving. It'll probably take at least a couple rocks.
Yeah, again, exactly what we talked about, putting it in position where it's going to take multiple shots to unlock those stones and give themselves a chance. This one needs to turn over a little bit for Andrew. Weight's really good. That's pretty well done. So great position now for Anderson and Stopera. Shuster's going to have to move these stones around. And Smitty, the number one thing too, and it's obviously you'd like to win the game this end if you can, but with the ability to steal, this might be a point already for Shuster that you need to bail and open this up and at least make sure you can score. So worst case scenario, you need to steal in the extra end to win. You still may be able to set up a 2 if you hit this the right way. Playing this around on the outturn side, trying to move them around first maybe before they play the 1 in.
Interesting. I'm surprised he didn't attempt to run this early.
Yeah,
but maybe he's got a different game plan of trying to get one in there, tap him around a little bit, and have that controlling rock that we talked about earlier, on the top 4 foot.
Yeah, needs the weight to move these stones. Does jostle them enough that there's a pocket now, so not a bad result at all. Couldn't really play any more weight than they played to get it to curl up to the spot they needed to hit, but yeah, I agree, Smitty. I just with John's tendencies too, I thought maybe he'd play the run and maybe get a couple cracks at it, even if they don't make it on the first one. And they have to place that guard in a spot that's every bit as good as the previous one too, to not make it easier.
I think the shot he just played as well, though. Set up that pocket now. And especially with his 2 other rocks in the house. There's still a good chance he could get his deuce here. Makes a couple other good ones.
Andrew trying to play this to the top of the 4 foot. This is taking a little bit of a turn now. Not sure if looks like it's now gliding. Thought it was kind of hitting the brakes. Weight should be pretty good. It does get all the way to the top 4s, and it's in a very good position, Smitty. Hard to get that one out of the 4s. There may have been a possible 2 there for Matt and Becca. Let's see what they hang for score, but 2 would get them much better opportunity to steal and tie it up in the 8th, only needing 1 point.
Right back in the game over there if it was in fact a deuce.
Timeout called by Geving and Shuster to talk about this one. Probably the right time for it. Only a single for the Hamiltons. So it's 5-3 going to the final end, and Taylor Anderson, Ben Richardson have their power play left, so they'll be using it in the final end, a 2-point lead in hammer and the power play. Major advantage now for that squad, and great position to possibly advance to the semifinals.
Yeah, they'll definitely need some misses from Taylor and Ben if they're going to steal these 2 points, especially with those rocks lined up under the corners. It makes it much more difficult for them to steal 2 points.
Two undefeated teams awaiting these winners in the semifinals. TC and Dropkin, Persinger implies, both going 7-0 through the round robin to secure the byes into the semis. Shuster now playing peel weight on this intern, trying to hit what they can see.
He initially talked about hitting the back one first. Let's see if that's what he calls.
Yeah, and does make the double on those back two. That's a really good result there for John. And now all of a sudden, yellow sitting first, third, and fourth. It just took one shot, what they could see, to completely flip this end around again. Still a good opportunity for Stopera come around and lock one onto this yellow stone, I would think, Smitty, as opposed to coming to your own.
Yeah, that way if you have that kind of that catcher with that yellow one too, if it happens to hang out a little bit, you'll be in front of that one.
So out-turn freeze attempt from Stopera. Essentially a guard in the rings for them. And if they do make this freeze, Smitty, it's going to be really difficult without moving that other red stone, obviously, to have any type of chance at scoring two. This is over-curling a little bit. They'd like to bounce off of their own, maybe. But instead just corners on it, so... If you're Shuster, are you playing the run here and trying to move all those reds?
I think his decision is between that and playing almost the same shot he played before with tapping that red one and sitting on top of it, kind of cornering it. Sure. That way he's already shot rock. That will give them that in-turn path as well for the draw if Sarah and Andrew don't take it away.
Yeah, I think you're right. So if you play this out turn around the center guard and push that red stone out of the 4-foot, if your shooter stays cornered on the red, now you're guarding your own stone on the button as well. So it may give you a chance to score two, but likely secures your one. I don't know that you'd be able to see enough of that top red one in the top of the 4-foot to play it into the yellow. So that may be the shot, just to maybe a hack weight shot, just to come around, tap that out of the fours, maybe even back line.
Yeah, with them being down one, they only need to get two here. If it was, if they're down anymore, they'd probably have to throw a little more weight at it to get it through the rings.
And they are playing the run.
Wrong again, which is why we're up here and not playing,
yeah,
right?
We call the run, he plays the bump. We call the bump, he plays the run. Oh, look at that shot. And those two yellows are kind of behind the center guard, too. It might be a situation where you just lob back the freeze to make sure. Yeah, that's what they're talking about. I'm calling timeout. See Coach Lazar get those legs loose. Get moving, zipping that jacket up a little more as he walks down. But yeah, the initial call here from Sarah and Andrew is playing that freeze to those back stones, trying to prevent any score of two. I think you don't really have a whole lot of option, Smitty. If you play the draw around the center, in order to be shot, it's probably going to be in a place where they can dig it out.
Yeah, I think that call down two, it's pretty good. You can even tap it a little bit, so you have a little bit of room for error with the weight. See what Coach Mark's words of wisdom for him.
Even with the freeze, if this freezes to nose or over curls just a hair, I wonder if you could skinny the guard, pick that rock out straight sideways, and use the red for a stopper and still score two. It may be buried too much to play that, we'll see. But if you're thinking in terms of if we have a shot to win the game right now, that could be possible. But percentages of winning, losing games with stealing in the final end maybe not worth the risk, even if that's available. We'll see where this ends up. Does look like they're playing that freeze to the back. So Sarah Anderson's final stone of this 8th end, playing the freeze. Way back 8s. Not a shot you see very often in mixed doubles.
No, you don't. This back house freeze is very rarely thrown in this game.
And this is one where that weight, with throwing back line, it might run a little straighter than you expect. And that's exactly what's happening right now. This needs to turn over and die. Looks like it might bounce off a little. That may be just good enough. And they get to the inside, Smitty, with that little bit of space and score 2.
But the way these rocks move, I think it's there.
Yeah, the shooter needs to stay too and out count that back yellow stone.
They do have that yellow one right behind their own yellow one, so they can afford to even make a little bit of contact on that yellow one. I guess it might jam into that.
Yeah, you need your shooter, I think, to count, because the red is going to jam on something if you play that. I don't think there's enough space to pick it through the hole, so it's either going to play off of your yellow into the red or just clean into the side of that red. And then you need the top stone and the shooter to count for 2. Final stone of this 8th end, Aileen Geving. We think playing to these back stones.
Close.
Curling hard now. Does need to get close to the guard to make it. It looks like they just elected to play the draw after all. Didn't think it was there. Hard to tell. Playing the exact same line, basically.
Yeah.
Will they take the single to move on to our extra end in this quarterfinal matchup? 5-5, heading to the extra.
The everyday person may not aspire to be a professional athlete or an Olympic athlete. You may just want to be the best person you can be. You just may want to sleep better. You may want to feel better. Thorne has many products that can support all of those things. So it's not just about performing or running faster or jumping higher. It's those little things that go into having a higher quality of life.
Extra end here in this quarterfinal matchup, 2023 USA Curling Mixed Doubles National Championships. Geving and Shuster, Anderson Stopera tied at 5. Anderson and Stopera with hammer in this extra. Tyler George and Jason Smith. And Smitty, we see a final over on sheet D. Taylor Anderson draws the 4-foot for the win in the 8th, and they win 6-3 over Matt and Becca Hamilton, and they win that tiebreaker game this morning after winning the need a win and help game last night in the final round robin matchup, and then continue straight through with the win in the quarterfinals. So 3 must-win games all the way through to the semifinals now.
Yeah, they're probably getting hot at the right time, like we talked about earlier. It's good for them on winning last night to give themselves a chance, and then getting to the tiebreaker this morning, winning that one, playing well, and it looked like they had another great game today as well against the Hamiltons.
Perfect stone by Aileen Geving to start out this extra end, right to the top of the button, and Sarah Anderson now trying to bump that stone off the top of the 4s. Taps it back behind the button. So better position now for Anderson and Stopera.
What do you think the next I would assume John is calling the corner freeze on the top red one. But I would think even if he left it top 12 here, it's not a bad position for his rock under that center guard as well.
Shuster playing around on the outturn side, probably just trying to leave this cornered on that red or somewhere around the top 8 foot. Shuster hopping up to sweep his own stone, and Aileen getting behind him to call the line on it. Just going to get to a tight guard, but staggered underneath the center guard, so I think you may see a double peel attempt now. Open this up, and that is what they're lining up for. We got one right.
We did. We got one call right finally.
In our defense, I think it was an either-or decision on all these we've been wrong on, because the last few, the shot that we called and we flipped was the exact same shot that we called on the one previously.
That is true. That is true.
I'm
going to blame the players, though, because they deviated away from that draw to the 4 foot. We've mastered that call. We would like to call that every time.
So that double peel attempt does move both stones off the center at least and opens up the 4 foot a little bit. And that is the ideal situation now for Anderson and Stopera. They don't need any guards in play. They'd like this to be as open as possible. And give Sarah Anderson a simple shot for the win.
I imagine John is putting this guard back, probably in the same spot or even a little higher, make that double peel a little bit more difficult.
Sitting shot rock on the back of the button. Even with these extra ends, you forget how quickly they go by trying to set up a steal. Question in the chat about any Diet Dr. Pepper. It's actually Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. Get that correct in the booth. Had a couple yesterday. Got one in the backpack, ready to go, but sticking with coffee for the time being.
Had one yesterday as well. Delicious as always.
Well, that's what all the cool kids are doing, or all the cool old dudes, whatever you want to call us. Now another double peel attempt from Stopera. Important shot here, Smitty. Good angle to get both of these off and roll the shooter away.
Yeah, big shot here for Andrew. If he can open this up, it'll make their end easier to score in. It's close.
Ends up just sticking it, but rolls it a little bit farther off the center. Important thing with where that rock ends up is it moved, I believe, just enough that if you needed to play a tap on that red stone, now that path is there. Whereas where it was previously, that shot wasn't accessible. You really want to have multiple angles at getting shot rock for the last one so that they can't take everything away. And I think that second guard rolling over a foot just opened that shot up enough.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it left them room to be able to make that tap with that red one. Be able to throw the weight they would intend to throw at it, so it wouldn't be anything different than they normally would play at it.
Looking to replace the guard again now, down to the final 4 shots of this game. Actually looking to play into the house and angle this off. Covers enough of that I don't think the slash is what they'll play, but they probably want to try to get all these moving now. If you hit maybe a half stone, Smitty, you can get both those yellows going and open this up.
Yeah, I see Andrew throwing at the top yellow and crossing the red one, and possibly even shooting it straight back onto the other yellow one. Makes me wonder if John intended to throw it there, or if he just knew he was heavy and decided kind of a plan B to bring it to that location.
I'd be awfully surprised if they played that in the rings, because John knows that the less distance there is between those stones, the easier it is for Andrew to get all of these moving. I mean, really a higher guard, even a mid guard, is probably the ideal spot there. It might have just been one where caught a quicker path or gave a little more ad than intended. And yeah, I don't think I could see John thinking that coming into the rings was a better shot there.
Yeah, also with the guard placement, you know, if Andrew and Sarah decided to take a run at that red one, then they could still have like a little tap or something around that center guard. But
so Stopera with a huge shot here, trying to run this yellow over the top into the red and into the back yellow. Very close. And there it is. Great shot from Stopera, and sitting shot rock in the back of the 8-foot too. All that's left now for Geving and Shuster is out-turn draw around this corner to get shot rock and force Sarah Anderson to draw the force for the win.
We might see a back-to-back Anderson draw to the 4-foot.
Yeah, the two sisters with probably a opportunity to draw to win the game on both. Opposite sides of the bracket for these two as well. If we are looking forward a little bit, if there could possibly be a sibling battle for the national championship, it would be in the final. Have fun with that one, Wayne and Arlene.
Well, Wayne's coaching.
Yeah.
So he's got to cheer for Taylor. Arlene up here is probably would be a nervous wreck.
Would be a tall task with both of their opponents undefeated on the week in these semifinal games. We're not there yet. Aileen Geving could bury this stone underneath the corner guard and probably get a piece of the 4-foot still, Smitty, if this is placed right.
Yeah, and it's never even a bad idea to leave them a piece, too. Make them think about it a little bit if they want to throw that hit at it or throw the cold draw to the 4-foot.
That's got to go to get shot now. Shuster really working this, trying to get to the 8-foot. Not going to happen. That comes up short, so no last shot necessary. It will be a win for Andrew Stopera and Sarah Anderson. Make that final, as Vic Rauter would say, make the final 6-5. Anderson and Stopera with the win. Smitty, obviously the key shot in that final end. Andrew Stopera with that slash, trying to get that over the top, moving all three of those and opening up the center. And again, not sure if that shot from Shuster was supposed to be shorter for a guard, but gave Andrew the chance and took full advantage, and a wonderful shot there to set up the win.
Yeah, also earlier in the game, they had that shot where they could have set up something for possibly guaranteeing a 2 and ended up backfiring where they only got the 1. It didn't come back to bite them this time.
So with those victories now, Sarah Anderson and Andrew Stopera will take on Vicky Persinger and Chris Plies in their semifinal matchup. And on the opposite side of the bracket, Taylor Anderson, Ben Richardson will play Corey Teesey and Corey Dropkin. Both of those games at 7 p.m. tonight, Eastern Time. We'll be back here in the booth for that later. Smitty, thanks for joining. It was a lot of fun. Good to have the mixed doubles expertise here. Here we see that championship bracket. Now Anderson and Stopera moving on to play Persinger and Plies, and Taylor Anderson, Ben Richardson facing off against Corey Teesey and Corey Dropkin. And again, both of those teams 7-0 through the round robin, looking to run through this tournament undefeated in order to win a national championship. And Smitty, any picks for these games to that? Are you willing to go out on a limb and say who you got?
I think it's all even money. I don't think you can really pick anybody to win these games. But I do want to say thank you to you and you guys for having me up here, and also a big thank you to Curling Stadium for being here and putting on a great show for people at home to be able to sit and watch. It's very much appreciated by all of our families.
Yeah, we've had a revolving door of co-commentators this week, but it's been a lot of fun and getting to do games with different people, different friends too, and different perspectives on the mixed doubles game and hear about what's going on in everyone's lives. It's been a lot of fun for me. The week getting closer to a close. One more draw tonight, again, 7 p.m., our semifinal matchups. And then tomorrow morning, I believe 11 a.m. will be your national championship final, Eastern Time. So for Tyler George, Jason Smith, the Curling Stadium crew, we will see you back here in the booth tonight, 7 p.m. for our semifinal matchups. Thanks for watching.